Hi again. I'm here with Dr. Neil. My name's Maridee, and I'm with nsquared Solutions. And we are here to talk a little bit more about the Surface device again. And today we are going to talk about the Microsoft Surface Simulator. So, Dr. Neil.
Hi.
Hi. When you're first building Surface applications, do you have to do everything on the Surface unit?
No, absolutely not. And with the Surface SDK, you get a simulator, and the Surface Simulator gives you the ability to build Surface applications just on your desktop or on your laptop. The Surface Simulator it does require that you have a fairly high resolution screen. It takes up, I guess the recommendation is something like 1280 by 960 or some bizarre resolution like that, but you kind of want 1024 by 1280 minimum to be running the simulator. If you have a laptop with a smaller screen, you find that actually if you plug in a second screen that has a higher resolution, you can often use that for the simulator. And actually it's quite a good idea when using the simulator to have the simulator running on a second screen. I often do that. I'll have like my developer machine with the developer screen up and then the simulator running on a second monitor, and then I can be running stuff up and seeing it on second monitor without having to keep flipping back and forth.
Definitely. Okay. So what can you do on the simulator that's different from the full Surface experience or similar to it?
Yeah, the simulator attempts to simulate a full Surface experience. Of course, you don't have touch. You don't have the real vision system. So it simulates touch points with a mouse. You can actually, it's pretty cool, you can plug in multiple USB mice to your PC and then you can move. I find it difficult to use more than 2 mice at a time, but you can have multiple mice plugged in and you can move them around and they can act as fingers or contact points. You can also leave contact points down, so you can, for example, move a finger, put it down, leave it there, and then carry on using the same mouse and pretend to be another finger. So for example, you can do that kind of put a finger down, that finger then stays there, move that finger across, and then you can do that rotate type.
So like a scatter view.
Yeah, you
type
can
of thing.
simulate that kind of activity. You can simulate tags, so both byte tags and identity tags are supported within the simulator, so you can put them down and simulate tags on the tabletop. So
that's really cool. Yeah, I've messed with that myself, so
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. What about testing?
Yeah, so the other cool thing you can do with the simulator is you can record actions. So it records all the contact actions on the pretend tabletop, and then you can play them back. So you can record finger down, record contact down, record the timing. It really just records the contacts and the timing. Things to be aware of with the recording, the most overused Surface controller is scatter view. Scatter view randomly scatters items on the screen. So if you record something on a randomly scattered item, the chances are it probably won't be in that location the next time. So when you record it and then play back, it won't work. So it's good if you have very fixed content, fixed position content. The recording tool is very useful. So we have some apps like Surface Snap, for example, is a good example where the content is fixed in location, or the initial startup screen, for example, on Surface Chemistry is fixed in location, and you can use the testing tool on that. But as soon as you go into a more scatter view type approach, then it gets a lot more difficult to do that kind of recording and playback for testing purposes. I guess one other thing to point out about the simulator is the simulator does run on a screen that is vertically mounted, and so you miss out often on the opportunity to really see, well, how would that work from the other side? One of the tricks I've seen a few people do now is actually take the second monitor that they're using for the simulator off the stand and put it down on the table. So when they're running and then they see their test on the simulator, they look down on the simulator, because that's how you'll look down on the tabletop.
And keeping that perspective in mind is really important.
Right, because often when we're developing for a typical Windows type scenario, we're developing looking sideways at the artifacts that are rendered on the screen. Whereas when you look down on an artifact, you have a different point of view, and so you want to represent those things differently.
Right, right. Which kind of brings me to my next question. When you're developing an application throughout the life cycle of your application development, when is it best to use an actual Surface unit versus the simulator?
Yeah, so I mean, typically we kind of I talk about breaking down surface development into 4 stages, and the first 2 stages you really need to have a surface unit. They're the stages where actually having the unit there for ideation, for discovery, for prototyping. So the first stage, is when you're ideating and you're coming up with ideas as to what are you going to build, how's it going to work, what are the functionalities, those kind of things. As you're playing around thinking about what can you do, actually having nothing beats having a surface unit there. And the second stage of prototyping, and I love rapid prototyping, so build 3 or 4 iterations if you can every day, but every week, get things going in cycles fast, so you can see how will it look, how will it work. And they don't even have to be functional. You can do it to such a, we've done it in the past where you have you really just sketch out what will the interface look like and bring it up on the table, and then you can look at it on the tabletop and go, oh, okay, that won't work from that side. Having the table there, having the surface unit there for those first 2 stages, I think is critical. So people that don't do that generally build poor applications for Surface. When you get to the 3rd stage, where you're actually cutting code, writing the functionality, it's pretty easy to do with a simulator. You can do nearly all of that with a simulator. Anything performance related, you want to test on the actual unit, because the unit will have a different performance than your desktop probably. And then final stage testing and verification. Well, you kind of have to have a Surface unit. It's like, there's a lot of similarities in a strange way to mobile phone development, in that you could build a lot of stuff on the emulators or simulators, but when it comes to testing, you really have to have that final unit to test it on and validate that it works as you expect.
Right, definitely. So, well, great. That's great talking to you about the simulator today.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next time with some more information on Surface.